Then took heart the prophet, unreproved, and said, Then took heart the prophet, unreproved, and said, Beloved, would thy charge see disclosed the secret of Apollo's wrath? 1, 2, 3. Let us ask some prophet, priest, or prove some dream interpreter, for dreams are often sent by Jove. Of all these Grecians here, I living, for the state of Greece, thy spirit prophetic shows skills that direct us. And not a man of all these Grecians here, I living and enjoying the light shot through this flowery sphere, shall touch thee with offensive hands. Though Agamemnon be the man in question that doth boast the mightiest empery of all our army. Then took heart the prophet, unreproved, and said, Jove's beloved, would thy charge see disclosed? And said, They're not unpaid vows nor hecatombs that moved the god against us. His offense is for his priest impaired. By Agamemnon, that refused the present he preferred and kept his daughter. This is why heaven's far darter darts these. There we go. The god against us. His offense is for his priest impaired by Agamemnon, that refused the present he preferred and kept his daughter. This is cause why heaven's far darter darts these plagues amongst us. And this still will empty in our hearts his deathful quiver, uncontained, till to her loved sire the black-eyed damsel be resigned. No redemptory hire took for her freedom, not a gift, but all the ransom quit, and she conveyed with sacrifice, till her enfranchised feet tread Crissa under. Then the god, so pleased, perhaps, we may move to remission. Thus he sate, and up the great. Hold on, I wanted to make a note from the previous day's recording. Okay. Let's get Agamemnon in here. Dotard, avoid our fleet, where lingering be not found by me. Thus he sate, and up the great sway. Let me move this so I can see it easier. so pleased, perhaps we may move to remission. Thus he sate, and up the great in sway heroic Agamemnon rose, eagerly bearing all, his mind's seat overcast with fumes, and anger general filled all his faculties. And up the great in sway heroic Agamemnon rose, eagerly bearing all, his mind's seat overcast with fumes, and anger, his mind's seat overcast with fumes, and anger general filled all his faculties. His eyes sparkled like kindling fire. All his faculties. His eyes sparkled like kindling fire, which sternly cast upon the priest. Like kindling fire, which sternly cast upon the priest, thus vented he his ire. Which sternly cast upon the priest, thus vented he his ire. Prophet of ill, his ire. Prophet of ill, for never good came from thee towards me, never good came from thee towards me, not to a word's worth. Evermore thou took'st delight to be offensive in thy auguries, which thou continuest still. Now casting thy prophetic gall, and vouching all our ill, shot from Apollo, is imposed since I refused the price of fair Chryseis' liberty, which would in no worth rise to my rate of herself, which moves my vows to have her home, past Clytemnestra, which would in no worth rise to rate of herself, which moves my vows to have her home, past Clytemnestra loving her, that graced my nuptial room with her virginity and flower, nor ask her merits less for past Clytemnestra, which moves my vows to have her home, past Clytemnestra loving her, that graced my nuptial room with her virginity and flower, nor ask her merits less for person and flower, disposition, wit, and skill in housewiferys, and yet for skill in housewiferys, and yet for all this she shall go. For all this, and yet, for all this she shall go, if more conducible that course be than holding her here. I rather wish the weal of my loved army than the death. Provide yet instantly supply for her, that I alone of all our royalty lose not my winnings. 'Tis not fit. You see all, I lose mine, forced by another. Lose not my winnings. 'Tis not fit. 'Tis not fit. You see all, I lose mine, forced by another. See as well some other. You see all, I lose mine, forced by another. See as well some other may resign his prize to me. See as well some other may resign his prize to me. To this replied the swift-foot, godlike son of Thetis thus. Let us ask some prophet, priest, or prove some dream interpreter. Of Thetis thus. King of us all, in all ambition, most covetous of all that breathe, why should the great-souled Greeks supply thy lost prize out of theirs? Why should the great-souled Greeks supply thy Great-souled Greeks, supply thy lost prize out of theirs. Nor what thy avarice seeks our common treasury can find. So little it common treasury can find, so little it doth guard. Our common treasury can find, so little it doth guard of what our raised town yielded us. So little it doth guard of what our raised town yielded us, of all which most is shared, can find. So little it doth guard of what our raised town yielded us, of all which most yielded us, of all which most is shared and given our soldiers, which again to take into our hands were ignominious, and of all which most is shared and given our soldiers, shared and given our soldiers, which again to soldiers, which again to take into our hands were ignominious and base, which again to take into our hands, which again to take into our hands were ignominious and base. Now then, since God commands, part with thy most loved prize to him, not any one of us prize to him, not any one of us exacts it of thee, yet we all lost. Not any one of us exacts it of thee. Now then, since God commands, part with thy most loved prize to him. Not any one of us exacts it of thee. Not any one of us exacts it of thee. Not any one of us exacts it of thee. Yet we all lost thou sufferest. Yet we all loss thou sufferest thus will treble, quadruple. All loss thou sufferest thus will treble, quadruple in gain when Jupiter bestows the sack of well-walled. Quadruple in gain when Jupiter bestows the sack of well-walled Troy on us. Bestows the sack of well-walled Troy on us, but the sack of well-walled Troy on us, which by his word he owes. Troy on us, which by his word he owes. Do not deceive yourself with wit, he answered, godlike man. Though your good name may colour it, 'tis not your swift foot can outrun me here. May colour it, 'tis not your swift foot can outrun me here. Nor shall the gloss set on it with the god persuade me to my wrong. Wouldst thou maintain in sure abode thine own prize, and slight me of mine? Resolve this, if our friends, as fits in equity my worth, will right me with amends, so rest it. Otherwise, myself will enter personally on thy prize. Or otherwise, myself will enter personally on thy prize, that of Ithacus or Ajax. So rest it. Otherwise, myself will enter personally on thy prize, that of Ithacus or Ajax for supply. Let him on whom I enter rage. But come, we'll order these hereafter, and in other place. Now put to sacred seas our black sail, in it rowers put, in it fit sacrifice, and to these I'll make my ascend, my so much envied prize, bright-cheeked Chryseis. For conduct of all which we must choose a chief out of our counselors. Thy must choose a chief out of our counselors. Thy service we must We must choose a chief out of our counselors. Thy service we must use, Idomeneus, Ajax thine. Idomeneus, Ajax thine, or thine, wise Ithacus, or thine. Ajax thine, or thine, wide Ajax thine. Ajax thine, or thine, wise Ithacus. Ajax thine, or thine, wise Ithacus. Or thine, thou terriblest of men, thou son of Peleus, which fittest were that thou mightst see these holy acts, Peleus, which fittest were that thou mightst see these holy acts performed, for which thy cunning zeal so pleads, and he whose thy cunning zeal so pleads. And he whose bow thus stormed for our offences may be calmed, for which thy cunning zeal so pleads. And he whose bow thus stormed for our offences, may be calmed. Achilles with a frown thus answered, O thou impudent, of no good but thine own ever respectful. Of no good but thine own ever respectful. But of that which all craft covetous, with what? Of no good but thine own ever respectful. But of that with all craft covetous. With what heart can a man attempt a service dangerous, or at thy voice be spirited to fly upon a foe? Thy mind thus wretched. For myself I was not injured so by any Trojan, that my power should bid them any blows. In nothing bear they blame of me. Phthia, whose bosom flows with corn and people, never felt impair of her increase. By their invasion. Hills enow and far resounding seas pour out their shades and deeps between. But thee, thou frontless man, we follow. And thy triumphs make with bonfires. Of our bane. Thy and thy brothers' vengeance sought, thou dog's eyes. Of our bane. Thine and thy brother's vengeance sought, thou dog's eyes, of this Troy, by our exposed lives. Whose deserts thou neither dost employ with honor nor with care. And now thou threatenst to force from me the fruit of my sweat, which the Greeks gave all. And though it be, compared with thy part, then snatched up nothing, nor ever is at any sacked town, but of fight the fetcher in of this, my hands have most share. Nor ever is at any sacked town. But of fight the fetcher in of this, my hands have most share, in whose toils I have emptied me of all my forces, my amends in liberality. Though it be little, I accept, and turn. Emptied me of all my forces, my amends in liberality, though it be little, I accept, and turn pleased to my tent. And yet that little thou esteem'st too great a continent in thy incontinent avarice. For Phthia, therefore, now my course is, since 'tis better far here to endure. Since 'tis better far than here to endure that thou shouldst still be ravishing. Since 'tis better far than here to endure that thou shouldst still be ravishing my right, draw my whole treasury dry, and add dishonor. He replied, If thy heart serve thee, flee, stay not for my cause. Others. He replied, If thy heart serve thee, flee, stay not for my cause. Other here will aid and honor me. If not, yet Jove I know. If not, yet Jove I know is sure. That counselor is he that I depend on. As for thee, of all our Jove-kept kings, thou still art most mine enemy. Strifes, battles, bloody things make thy blood feast. Still. But if strength that these moods build upon flow in thy nerves, God gave thee it, and so 'tis not. And so 'tis not thine own, but in his hands still. What then lifts thy pride in this so high? Home with thy fleet and myrmidons, use there their empery. What then lifts thy pride in this so high? Home with thy fleet and myrmidons, use there their empery, command not here. I weigh thee not, nor mean to magnify thy rough-hewn rages. But instead I thus far threaten thee. Since Phoebus needs will force from me Chryseis, she shall go. My ships and friends shall waft her home. But I will imitate so his pleasure, that mine own shall take in person from thy tent bright-cheeked Briseis, and so tell thy strength how eminent my power is, being compared with thine. All other making fear to vaunt equality with me, or in this proud kind bear their beards against me. Thetis' son. Or in this proud kind bear their beards against me. Thetis' son at this stood vexed. His heart bristled in his bosom, and two ways drew his discursive part. If from his thigh his sharp sword drawn, he should make room about Atrides' person, slaughtering him. Or person, he should make room about Atrides' person, slaughtering him. Or sit his anger out and curb his spirit. With these thoughts strived in his blood and mind, and he his sword drew. Down from heaven Athenia stooped, and shined about his temples. In his blood and mind, and he his sword drew. Down from heaven Athenia stooped, and shined about his temples, being sent by the ivory-wristed queen Saturnia, who, out of her heart, had ever loving been, and careful for the good of both. She stood behind, and took Achilles by the yellow curls, and only gave her look to him. Appearance not a man of all the rest. Appearance not a man of all the rest could see. He, turning back his eye, amaze strook every faculty. Yet straight he knew her by her eyes, so terrible they were, sparkling with ardor, and thus spake. Thou seed of Jupiter, why comest thou Thou seed of Jupiter, why comest thou to behold? Thou seed of Jupiter, why comest thou to behold his pride that boasts our empery with witness? To behold his pride that boasts our empery, then witness with it my revenge, and see that insolence die that live, and see that insolence die that lives to wrong me. Die that lives to wrong me. She replied, I am sent from Juno, whose effects stand heartily. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. To wrong me. She replied, I come from heaven to see thine anger. I come from heaven to see thy anger settled. If thy soul will use her sovereignty in... I come from heaven to see thine anger settled. If thy soul will use her sovereignty in... If thy soul will use her sovereignty in fit reflection. Her sovereignty in fit reflection. I am sent from Juno. I am sent from Juno, whose effects stand heartily inclined to both. Come, give us both respects, and cease contention. Give us both respects, and cease contention. Draw no sword, use words. Draw no sword. Contention. Draw no sword. Use words. No sword. Use words, and such as may be bitter to his pride, but just. And such as may be bitter to his pride, but just. For trust in what I say, a time shall come when, thrice the worth of what he forceth now, he shall propose for recompense of these wrongs. Therefore throw reins on thy passions, and serve us. Therefore throw reins on thy passions, and serve us. He answered, Though my heart burn in just anger, yet my soul must conquer the angry part, and yield you the angry part, and yield you conquest. Yet my soul must, though my heart burn in just anger, though my heart burn in just anger, yet my soul must conquer the angry part, and yield you conquest. Who subdues his earthly part for heaven, heaven to his prayers subdues his wish. Heaven to his prayers subdues his wish. Heaven to his prayers subdues his wish. This said, her charge was given fit honor. This said, her charge was given fit honor. In his silver hilt he held his able hand, and forced his broad sword up, and up to heaven did reascend, and forced his broad sword up, and up, broad sword up, and up to heaven did reascend Minerva, who, and up to heaven did reascend Minerva, who in Jove's high roof that bears the rough shield, took her place with other deities. She gone, again forsook patience his passion, and She gone, again forsook patience his passion, and no more his silence could confine, his wrath, that this broad language gave. Thou ever steeped in wine, dog's face, with heart but of a heart, dog's face, with heart but of a heart, that nor in the open eye of fight, darest thrust into a priest, nor with our noblest lie in secret ambush. These works seem too full of death for thee. 'Tis safer far in the open. 'Tis safer far in the open host to dare an injury to any crosser of thy lust. Thou subject-eating king, thou subject-eating king, base spirits thou governest, or this wrong had been the last foul thing thou ever authoredst. Yet I vow, and by a great oath swear, even by this scepter, that as this never again shall bear green leaves or branches, nor increase with any growth his size, nor with any growth his size, nor did since first it left the hills, his size, nor did since first it left the hills, and had his faculties and ornaments bereft with iron, which now to other end judges of Greece bear, and their laws received from Jove defend, for which my oath to thee is great. So whensoever need shall need shall burn with thirst of me, thy host. No prayers shall ever breed affection in me to their aid, though well-deserved woes afflict thee for them. When to death man-slaughtering Hector throws whole troops on them, and thou torments thy vexed mind with conceit of thy rude rage now. And his wrong that and thou torments thy vexed mind with conceit of thy rude rage now, and his wrong. When to death afflict thee for them, when to death man-slaughtering Hector throws whole troops of them, and thou torments thy vexed mind with conceit of thy rude rage now, and his wrong. Rude rage now, and his wrong that most deserve the right of all thy army. Of thy rude rage now, and his wrong that most deserve the right of all thy army. Thus he threw his scepter against the ground, with golden studs stuck, and took seat. Atrides' breast was drowned in rising choler. Up to both sweet-spoken Nestor stood, the cunning Pylian orator, whose tongue poured forth a flood of more than honey-sweet discourse. Two ages were increased of diverse languaged men, all born in his time and deceased. In sacred Pylos, where he reigned. Amongst the third-aged men. He, well seen in the world, advised, and thus he well seen in the world, advised, and thus expressed it then. O gods, our Greek earth will be drowned in just tears. And thus expressed it then. O gods, our Greek earth will be drowned in just tears. Rapeful Troy, her king and all his sons, will make will make as just a mock, will make as just a mock, will make as just a mock and joy of these disjunctions. If of you that all our host excel in counsel and in skill of fight, they hear this. If of you that all our host excel in counsel and in skill of fight, they hear this. Come, repel these young men's passions. Both put both your years in one, so old as I. I lived long since, and was companion with men superior to you both, who yet would ever hear my counsels with respect. Mine eyes yet never witness were, nor ever will be, with respect. Mine eyes yet never witness were, nor ever will be, of such men as then delighted them, Pirithous, Exatius, and godlike Pirithous, Exatius. Let's just check these now. Pirithous, Exatius, Polypheme, Caeneus, Dryas, Aegean Theseus, delighted them, Pirithous, nor ever will be, of such men as then delighted them, Pirithous, Exatius, as then delight, nor ever will be, of such men as then delighted them, Pirithous, Exatius, and godlike Polypheme, Caeneus and Dryas, prince of men, Caeneus and Polypheme, Caeneus and Dryas, prince of men, Caeneus and Dryas, prince of men, Aegean Theseus, a man like prince of men, Aegean Theseus, a man like heaven's immortals formed, all most vigorous of all men that even those days bred, most vigorous men, and fought with beasts, most vigorous men, and fought with beasts most vigorous, mountain beasts, for men in strength were not matched with their forces. For men in strength were not matched with their forces, fought with them. Were not matched with their forces, fought with them, and bravely fought them down. Yet even with these men I conversed, being called to the renown of their societies by their suits from Pylos far to fight in the Asian kingdom. And I fought their suits from Pylos far to fight in the Asian kingdom. And I fought to a degree of might that helped even their mights against such as no man now would dare to meet in conflict. Yet even these my counsels still would hear, and with obedience crown my words. Give you such palm to them. 'Tis better than to wreak your wraths. Atrides, give not stream to all thy power, nor force his prize. Atrides, give not stream to all thy power, nor force his prize, but yield her still his own, as all men else do. Nor do thou encounter with thy crown, great son of Peleus, since no king that ever Jove allowed grace of a scepter equals him. Suppose thy nerves endowed with strength superior. Suppose thy nerves equals him. Suppose thy nerves endowed with strength superior, and thy birth the very goddess gave. Yet he of force is mightier, since what his own nerves have is amplified with just command of many other. is amplified with just command of many other. King of men, command thou then thyself, and I with my prayers will obtain grace of Achilles to subdue his fury, whose parts are worth our entreaty, being chief check to all our ills in war. Being chief check to all our ill in war. Being chief check to all our ill in war. All this, good father, said the king, is comely and good right. But this man breaks all such bonds. He affects past all men height, all within his power. Height. He affects past all men height. All within his power hold, all make his subjects, give to all his hot will for a temperate law, all which he never shall persuade at my hands. If the gods have given him the great style of ablest soldier, may they that his license to revile men with vile language of ablest soldier, may they that his license to revile men with vile language, Thetis' son prevented him, and said, Fearful and vile I might be thought, Fearful and vile I might be thought, if the exactions laid by all means on me, I should bear. Others command to this, thou shalt not me. If thou dost, far my free spirit is from serving. Or if thou dost, far my free spirit is from serving thy command. Besides, this I affirm, a forward impression of it, and besides, this I affirm a forward impression of it in thy soul. This I affirm, a forward impression of it in thy soul. I will not use my sword on thee or any for a wench, unjustly though thou takest the thing thou gavest. But all things else that in my ship thou makest greedy survey of, do not touch without my leave. Or do, add thy without my leave. Or do, without my leave. Or do, add that acts wrong. Or do, add that acts wrong to this. Add that acts wrong to this, that these may see that outrage too. And then comes my part. Then be sure thy blood upon my lance shall flow in vengeance. These high terms, these two at variance used to each other, left their seats, and after them arose the whole court. To his tents and ships, with friends and soldiers, goes angry Achilles. Atrides, angry Achilles. Atreus' son, the swift ship launched. Angry Achilles. Atreus' son, the swift ship launched, and put within it 20 chosen rowers. Within it likewise shut the hecatomb to appease the god. Then caused to come aboard fair-cheeked Chryseis. For the chief fair-cheeked Chryseis. For the chief, he in whom Pallas poured her store of counsels, Ithacus aboard went last, and then the moist ways of the sea they sailed. For the chief, he in whom Pallas poured her store of counsels, Ithacus went aboard last, and then the moist ways of the sea they sailed. And now the king of men bade all the host to sacrifice. They sacrificed and cast the offal of all to the deeps. They sacrificed and cast the offal of all to the deeps. The angry god they grace with perfect hecatombs. Some bulls with perfect hecatombs. Some bulls, some goats along the shore of the unfruitful sea inflamed. To heaven the thick fumes bore enwrapped savours. To heaven the thick fumes bore enwrapped savours. Thus, though all the politic king made show respects to heaven, yet he himself all that time did pursue his own affections. The late jar in which he thundered threats against Achilles. Thus, though all the politic king made show respect to heaven, yet he himself all that time did pursue his own affections. The late jar in which he thundered threats against Achilles, still he fed, and his affections' heats thus he vented to Talthybius and grave Eurybates, heralds. To Talthybius and grave Eurybates, heralds and ministers of trust, to all his messages. Haste to Achilles' tent, where take Briseis' hand and bring her beauties to us. If he fail to yield her, say your king will come himself with multitudes that shall be the. Say your king will come himself with multitudes that shall be the horribler. With multitudes that shall be the horribler make. With multitudes that shall the horribler make. That shall the horribler make both his presence and your charge that he so dares defer. And your charge that so he dares defer. Both his presence and your charge, that so he dares defer. This said, he sent them with a charge of hard condition. They went unwillingly, and trod. This said, he sent them with a charge of hard condition. They went unwillingly, and trod the fruitless sea's shore. Soon they reached the navy and the tents, in which the quarter lay of all the Myrmidons, and found the chief in their sway, set at his black bark in his tent. Nor was Achilles glad to see their presence, nor themselves in any glory had their message, but with reverence stood and feared the offended king. Asked not the dame, nor spoke a word. Asked not the dame, nor spake a word. He yet, well knowing the thing that caused their coming, graced them thus. Heralds, ye men that bear the messages. Heralds, ye men that bear the messages of men and gods, ye are welcome, come ye near. I nothing blame you, but your king, 'tis he, I know, doth send you for Briseis. 'Tis he, I know, doth send you for Briseis. She is his, Patroclus, honored friend, bring forth the damsel, and these men, bring forth the damsel, and these men let lead her to their lord. And these men let lead her to their lord. But heralds, to their lord. But heralds, be you witness before the most adored before us, before the most adored, before us mortals, and before your most ungentle king, of what I suffer, that if war ever hereafter bring my aid in question, to avert any severest bane it brings on others, I am excused to keep mine aid in wane, since they mine. I am excused to keep mine aid in wane, since they mine honor. But your king in tempting mischief raves, nor sees at once by present things the future. How like waves ills. Nor sees at once by present things the future. How like waves ills follow ills, injustices being never so secure in present times, but after plagues, even then are seen as sure. Which yet he sees not, and so soothes his present lust, which would check plague's future. And so soothes his present lust, which would check plague's future. And he might, in succoring right, protect such as fit for his right at fleet. Which would check plague's future. And he might, in succoring right, protect such as fight for his right at fleet. They still in safety fight, that fight still justly. They still in safety fight, that fight still justly. This speech used, Patroclus did the right his friend commanded, and brought forth Briseis from her tent, gave her the heralds, and away to the archived ships they went. She sad, and away to the archived ships they went. She sad and scarce to the archived ships they went. She sad and scarce for grief could go. Her love all friends forsook, and wept. Her love all friends forsook, and wept for anger. To the shore of the old sea he betook himself alone, and cast forth upon the purple sea his wet eyes, and his hands to heaven advancing, this sad plea made to his mother. Mother, since you brought me forth to breathe so short a life, Olympius had good right to bequeath. So short a life, Olympius had good right to bequeath. Had good right to bequeath my short life honor. Yet that right he doth in no degree. Yet that right he doth in no degree, but lets Atrides do me shame, for force do me shame, and force that prize from me that all the Greeks gave. This with tears he uttered, and she heard. Set with her old sire in his deeps, and instantly appeared up from the grey sea like a cloud, sate by his side, and said, Why weeps my son? What grieves thee? By his side, and said, Why weeps? And said, Why weeps my son? What grieves thee? Speak, conceal not what hath laid such hard hand on thee. Let both know. Such hard hand on thee. Let both know. Let both know. He, sighing like a storm, replied, Thou dost know, why should I things known again inform?